This is a 2020 Volkswagen Jetta in the SE trim. If you're considering buying a new Jetta, check out this video. I'm going to give you my review in the form of 10 things you need to know and 3 gripes at the end, starting right now. In the last couple years, I've rented over 100 vehicles, and so I put my reviews out there. They're just my opinion. If that's something that interests you, click subscribe or check out some of my other reviews. So let's get to the list. So number 10 is the exterior. So I like the way that the Jetta looks. However, I would say it's pretty subtle. So the design is not aggressive. It's not particularly anything. That's where Volkswagen styling has kind of gone lately. If you look at the front, it really does look like a baby Passat, which has the same styling language as certainly the Tiguan, and maybe not the Atlas as much, but you know, Volkswagen styling is kind of really the brand is really following the same language. So this is the updated look. One thing I don't like, which I'll draw your attention to, is the front mouth. It just looks too open to me. So if they had cut this bottom part off and raised it up, I think it would look cleaner. That's really just my opinion. But what do you think of the exterior? Leave a comment, let me know. So number 9 is the SE trim. What does it include? So the first thing you get when you upgrade to the SE is this panoramic sunroof. I'm not sure I would describe it as panoramic. It is a moonroof, but it's not super big and it's not super deep, but it's nice. The second thing you get is keyless entry. So you got this new Volkswagen key fob. It looks really sharp. It's kind of light. And so, you know, you get the keyless entry, push button start for the interior, and then the blind spot monitoring for, you know, your mirrors in the blind spot. It's got a little icon that lights up when you've got somebody in your blind spot. So the SE trim is the second on the kind of the ladder up. It starts with the S, then the SE, then the R line, which has a sportier look, two-tone interior. You can get it with the manual transmission, and so that, you know, that's, if you're looking for something sportier, that's a good way to go. And then they have the SEL and SEL Premium, which gets you, you know, full leather wrapped seats, a larger touchscreen, some other options that you can add. But the SE is a pretty good value, especially if you're after a moonroof. Volkswagen's trim is maybe different than some other manufacturers where they don't offer a lot of options that you can add on. You simply pick your trim level if those are the options you want. Okay, number 8 is the safety tech. So I mentioned that the SE comes with blind spot monitoring. The problem is that's really it for Volkswagen in the Jetta. And so no matter what trim level you get, you cannot add adaptive cruise control, emergency braking, lane keep assist. These technologies are just not available, which is disappointing because Audi has all of them, which means Volkswagen has access to some really good systems. They've just chosen not to bring them into the Volkswagen brand at this level. You can get them in some of the, you know, the bigger SUVs. So, you know, it's a little bit disappointing, but at least you do get the blind spot monitoring, which is a nice feature in terms of its technology. I would like to see them have adaptive cruise control as an option at the very least. Number 7 is the infotainment system. So take a look at the system when you're test driving it. It's very much black and white. It's kind of got blue trim, but it's a darker screen setup. It does have CarPlay and Android Auto. One thing I'll draw your attention to is that the USB ports for the new models are only USB-C, and so if you travel with a USB cable, as I do, you can't gain access to it without an adapter. I'm starting to see this in more and more cars. I don't necessarily like that they don't offer both. I think that until everybody's kind of switched over to USB-C, they should offer both. But you know, overall, the infotainment system is responsive, quick. It's pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's the best out there. It's not particularly intuitive, but it does have good response time. And you know, with the addition of CarPlay, it really adds the, you know, the ability to have navigation and everything that you would use that's in your phone on the screen, and so that's nice. Okay, number 6, the rear seat and trunk space. So they are not the best. Let me jump back there real quick. So a full-grown adult can definitely fit back here. I did not move my seat from where I was. Again, I'm 6'1", and so sitting back here, I do have leg room. It's surprisingly adequate. And then the trunk space is it's very nice. You can definitely fit golf clubs back there. It's got some good depth. The mouth, or the opening, is sufficient. So I do like the cargo space in this Jetta, especially for a compact sedan. Does pretty good. If you needed a little bit more space, you might want to consider, you know, switching over to the Golf, but overall, it's pretty good. Hey, thanks for watching. Before I continue with the list, if you could click that like button, and don't forget to check out some of my other videos. If you like any of them, consider subscribing. New reviews pretty regularly. Let's get back to the list. So number 5, the powertrain. So this has a 1.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder. It's the only option, it's the only engine that you can get without going up to what's called the GLI. So that 1.4 liter turbo 4 gets 147 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. It does include a start-stop feature for traffic, and you can shut it off. It also has an eco mode. Both those buttons are right down here by the transmission. And so, you know, the power is adequate, but what they're really after with this car is decent power with really good gas mileage. So that brings me to number 4. In driving this car in the city and a little bit of the highway, but not as much as I would have thought, I still averaged 39.4 miles per gallon. That's pretty impressive to me. I think officially it's 30 and 40, so 30 in the city, 40 on the highway. I had to have been seeing better than that on the highway in order to average 39.4, and I wasn't even in eco mode. So you can really eke out some really good gas mileage if that's what you're after. So one of the Jetta's strengths is definitely its miles per gallon. Granted, most of its competitors in this segment do pretty well as well, but I don't want to take anything away from the Jetta. 30 and 40 is pretty good. So number 3, what is this vehicle like to drive? So I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty exceptional. It feels crisp and responsive in a way that I would compare to German cars, like maybe even a VW or a Mercedes. The steering is sharp and responsive. It feels like it's capable, even though it's not powerful or anything like that. You do feel like you're getting a premium sedan in terms of its drivability. I really like that about the Jetta. I think that's been a quality that they've had for decades. So to me, the ride quality is one of the exceptional things about this Jetta. Make sure you test drive one. Don't just look at it, because driving this car feels different than other cars in the segment that feel cheap and, you know, a lot softer in the steering. The responsive, crisp feeling of driving this car are definitely something that sets it apart. All right, number 2, the interior. So the SE trim comes with that start-stop. You can get optional the cold weather package, which among some other things includes heated front seats. The VTEX leatherette, or what comes standard in all Jettas. It is going to last longer than the leather, and frankly is really close to feeling like leather. Some might say that it feels cheap, but with the perforations, it doesn't get too you know, sweaty or too hot, and it also allows them to have the heated seat feature. I've read some reviews that say that the interior looks plasticky. I think that they went with a clean, simple design. Some of the materials do look cheaper than maybe a premium sedan, but they aren't necessarily cheap. I think they're designed to last. One thing that I have noticed is that the newer Volkswagens don't smell like that classic older VW. I don't know what you would describe it as. I would call it like a crayon smell. In old Beamers and V-Dubs, the interior had that specific smell. So they don't use that type of plastic anymore. But overall, the design is simple, clean, easy to use. The buttons are all very reachable. There's not too many. The stuff that they've moved to the screen still has buttons available. You can turn off the start-stop feature. I mentioned eco mode. And, you know, the AC controls, very intuitive. The steering wheel controls, which include the ability to change some of your screens and some music options, are also on the steering wheel in the SE or any of the trims. And so, you know, so my overall take on the interior is it feels premium, considering some of its competitors at the base model really pull out all of the options and you have to add them back in. All right, and then the number one thing you need to know is the price. So the SE as equipped is only $22,395. So the only real option I added in the build was the heated seats. Everything else is kind of standard, and Volkswagen really doesn't have a lot of options that you can add on without trading up to the next trim level. So that's a little bit different than some of their competitors. And so at the SE trim level, you get the roof, the keyless entry, the touchscreen, and the blind spot monitoring. So it's a pretty good value. If you go with the SEL Premium and add, you know, maybe the larger touchscreen, you still are only at 28 and some change. And so the Jetta is not an expensive car. It's definitely marketed as, you know, an entry-level sedan for families. But if you're considering it, leave a comment. If you bought one, let us know what you think of your Jetta. Have you had any issues, and what do you love about it? Leave a comment, let us know. Let me get to those gripes. All right, the first one is the fact that there's no USB, kind of traditional USB. They've gone only USB-C. Now, if you own the car, you would buy a cable that would work for you, so that's probably not an issue. The problem is people who are going to be in the car with you may not have that cable. And so while it's nice that they're trying to, you know, add some newer technology, a smaller connector, they should have at least included one traditional USB somewhere in the vehicle. Number two is the lack of available safety technology. I would have expected at least emergency braking, but there's no lane keep assist, no emergency braking, and no adaptive cruise control. That's disappointing. Again, Hyundai has it standard on almost all trim levels for their SUVs and for some of their cars. And so that is disappointing, but it's not unexpected. I want to see these companies bringing that technology to all their cars because it's so useful and makes the car safer. And then the third is the steering wheel controls. They are simply not intuitive. Unlike the rest of the layout, I feel like they're just laid out a little bit strangely. So that's my review. I hope you got something out of it. Again, if you have bought one of these cars or are considering it, leave a comment. Check out some of my other reviews, and we'll catch you next time.